Hello and good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody's having a good morning this morning. I'm enjoying the new time of the podcast. We've got some fun, exciting things planned today. Hope I've given away the code of the day, haven't I? That's all right. Super excited. I think somebody just texted. Passed the business and law test with an 86 last night. All right. That's exciting. We're live. I want to make sure that we've got good audio, and then we'll get started.
Have you ever seen one?
That's exciting. We're live. I want to make sure that we've got good audio, and then we'll get started. All right, we got good audio. I'm super excited about today's podcast. I hope that you're joining us live. We moved the podcast to 9 a.m. in hopes that more people on the West Coast could end up being able to enjoy it. When we went live at 7 a.m., it was 4 a.m. there. So a lot of people not getting up at 4 just to watch a 30-minute or so podcast. But now that it's at 9, hopefully it hits everybody's schedule. Hopefully we're on a few job sites across America and people are tuning in. And also you can check out all of these if you'll go to my YouTube channel, click on the live tab. You can go back and watch all of the previous episodes. We'll end up publishing them all eventually. And publishing them into regular videos, maybe do some post-editing, but I do enjoy the live factor. Well, we are going to go ahead and get started. It is 9 o'clock. Let's get to it. Hey everyone, welcome back. I am the Electrical Code Coach, and this is the Alpha Phase Podcast, where our goal is to be the number one in adding value to you. If there's anything you need from me, you can always email me at electricalcodecoach@gmail.com. Let's get to it. Now let's dive into our What's New. This is our news section where we talk about some of the hot topic items and get you thinking about the electrical industry and what's going on in our world. If you're like me, you look at your electric bill last month and it's astronomical. The electric bill just keeps rising and it seems there's no end. Let's look today at a couple of reasons why. Why your electric bill keeps climbing. A clear look at the real drivers. Electric bills across the U.S. have been steadily rising, often faster than inflation, leaving households and businesses asking the same question. Why? While surging demand from data centers and artificial intelligence get a lot of attention, the reality is much more complex. Multiple factors are pushing the price upwards. And understanding them gives us a clear picture of where the power of our dollars are going. Let's first talk about the growing energy demand. Growing energy demand. It's true that energy-hungry data centers, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence are a significant load to the grid. In some regions, these facilities can consume as much power as a mid-sized city just inside that one factory. Add a population growth on top of that and the electrification trends like EVs, heat pumps, and everything else in between, and it's easy to see why the demand is climbing. Rising fuel costs, natural gas remains the backbone of the U.S. electrical generation industry. We also have coal, we have hydroelectric, there are some nuclear plants, and there's going to be more. Even though America is a top producer, gas prices fluctuate with global demand, extreme weather, and export pressures. Higher natural gas costs directly translate into higher power prices. Coal and oil, though less used, follow similar trends. Supply chain and material inflation. The cost of building and maintaining power plants and grid infrastructure has surged. And us as electricians or homeowners or anybody, we have seen the rise in the cost of everything, including anything to do with the electrical industry. Steel, copper, concrete, and specialized equipment are all more expensive due to global chain constraints and strains. Utilities must recover these costs and do so as they do through rate hikes. When we deal with labor and workforce shortages, utilities face higher labor costs as they compete for skilled workers in construction, maintenance, and technical fields. A wave of retirements, which by the way is affecting and is going to be affecting greatly over the next 5 to 10 years, a massive amount of our industry. How many inspectors do you know are going to retire in the next 5 years? How many electricians do you know are going to retire in the next 5 years? A lot. And what we didn't do, and we touched on this yesterday, is train that next generation. And it seems like the previous generation didn't hardly do any training at all, whether it was just good common sense training, any training. Now, a lot did. I am the beneficiary of some of those who did take the time to look down. But watch this now. We've got to make sure we're investing in the younger generation. And I feel like my generation is doing a better job at that. For one, because we don't have any other workers. We don't have a choice. And for two, we see that nobody really looked down and invested in 20 years of people. And we have this huge gap in the workforce. A wave of retirements among experienced energy workers only adds to the pressure, leading to rising wages that ultimately feed into electricity bills. Let's talk about grid modernization. Grid modernization and resilience. Much of America's electrical grid was built multiple decades ago to prevent outages and withstand extreme weather and handle new energy demands. Utilities are investing billions in modernization. From smart meters to upgrading transmission lines, these improvements raise reliability, but they also come with higher upfront costs passed along to customers. I'm going to skip anything to do with clean energy. We're going to move right on to 7. Thankfully, electrical, and let me say this. We always need to be working on the newest, next clean energy. And what I mean by clean energy is an energy that produces as many kW as possible for the least amount of waste, the least amount of pollution, and the least amount of damage to our earth, because that is something as good stewards that we always need to be working on forever and ever. Amen. But with that being said, we still have to factor in all of the other things and do the net calculation on anything that we try to impose as laws or regulations, and also that we desire as humanity. You can't just take a little bit of data, make a law, force it, and not do the net calculation to see if it actually produced anything or if that law produced a good effect or a bad effect. You have to always look at the net effect. Let's talk about extreme weather events. This one's huge across the country. We've had earthquakes, fires, hurricanes, floods, and everything in between. Extreme weather events, storms, wildfires, heat waves are more frequent and severe. We have very good data, but lately it seems like, and because we have the great coverage, that we are seeing a lot of these and we're getting a lot more coverage on them. Utilities must invest in resilience measures, from burying power lines to building fire-resistant equipment, and also cover the cost of storm recovery. These expenses are significant and ratepayers must foot the bill. So let's talk about this kind of one little piece at a time. So let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about growing demand. As a society as a whole, we had LEDs come out, incandescence went down. That bought us a large chunk of KW across the nation. Very quickly, over about a 20-year span, we bought back a lot of consumption. At the same time, we had the rise of technology. At the exact same time, LEDs came out, which birthed the technology, which allowed us to remove the incandescents. But now we plug in 1 trillion devices. And on top of that, like this table behind me back here, you can plug the table in. It's got its own set of electricity that runs 24 hours a day, whether something's plugged into it. And I probably have 6 or 8 of them around my house. Desks, this desk plugs in, has lights built in if you want to use them, but it's always consuming some power because it's got that, it transitions over to the 5 volts DC that I need to charge my phones. So it's always pulling a little bit of power. Then you add in EVs and other things that we all enjoy, and we have increased our demand likely beyond LEDs. And then you insert these data centers and just other manufacturing needs. Data centers get a lot of the blame, and yes, they do use a lot of power, but they're also investing billions of dollars, where some utilities are government owned and they're dragging their feet or don't have any money to update. They come in with, they get a bad rap for using electricity, but they'll bring billions of dollars of infrastructure that this area might have never done, and it benefits everybody in the area. So you'd have to do, instead of just saying data centers, data centers, data centers. You've got to do the net calculation. Nobody reports on the good. They only report on the bad. It's on both sides because bad gets you to click. Someone saying, oh, Meta came in and spent $7 billion in the region and it helped lift up the area. Nobody's going to report on that, whether it is true or not. But if they wasted, a $500 million in your money, of course that's going to get reported on. That's just the way the news works. I'm not telling you anything new. Now let's talk about the rising fuel costs. I'm not going to dive too much into this one. Fuel goes up and down with time. One thing that I do want to hit on this, and what you're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years, is you're going to see new technologies come out and ways to move and produce electricity or generate electricity that we have never even seen. We are one breakthrough away from new renewable sources. Now, getting those out to the people, that's a whole different story. Don't forget, we are in a huge industry that has, probably a multi-trillion-dollar market cap just in the United States, not counting the entire world. So if I don't look for electricity to ever be free, let me say that. But I do look for new technologies to come out and some of maybe Nikola Tesla's dreams to be realized, and the price drops significantly. One thing I've found in the world is that when any one industry has a hold, like a monopoly, on one thing and they charge whatever they want, it's funny how capitalism, innovation, and I feel like God sometimes gets involved and takes away some of their power, or sometimes all of their power. And I want you to think about the phone companies. I want you to think about the cable companies. They had us by the cord until Netflix came out. You will see this happen to the electrical production industry as well. They own the electron. They have the wire that comes to the house. They're the only wire. And, of course, we see solar and things, but watch this now. Most states, even if you are fully off the grid, they make you legally connect to a meter and pay them a minimum amount every month, no matter what, even if you don't use it. Now, my friends, when industries start to get that type of positioning, you'll notice that the capitalist drive, innovation will start to, it just happens. It just happens naturally. And like I said, I use the phone companies and I use the cable companies as a really good example. How many options do you have now to watch TV? How many of you watch most of your TV on YouTube? Don't even need a cable company other than the internet, obviously. And now there's a million options for internet. So when industries have a stranglehold like some of them do, you'll see that things will come out that will remove that stranglehold. I love when things like that get liberated. I love this AI boom where knowledge is liberated. I love when when we got liberated from the cable company. I think it's a huge win for mankind, and I love to see it happen. Let's talk about supply chain and materials. The electrical industry somehow struggled during COVID, struggled for multiple years after to get a metal box with some lugs in it that were all already UL listed and created. No new design was needed. Why were we having trouble getting 200 amp meter bases? It's a metal piece of metal bent in a shape that's already been approved for 100 years. All of the lugs are already approved, and you literally just bolt the thing together. Why were we having trouble getting transformers? Why were we having trouble getting 400 amp meter bases? This doesn't make sense. Now, there may have been more things going on in the background that we have no idea about, but our industry, it's like you can see where we're going. Anybody, my 15-year-old daughter can see that the electrical demand is rising. Why don't you guys just make more parts and have it more available than it ever was in the history of mankind? And you'll notice some parts are still hard to get. We are how many years post-COVID? There was no excuse during COVID that we didn't have the parts, especially basic parts like meter bases and things like that. Makes you wonder if maybe more was going on in the background. Let's talk about inflation as well. So inflation is rising. Our costs of our personal electricity is going up. All the parts are going up. All of these things have a factor. Labor in the workforce, we've talked about this many times. We have huge shortages. Those gaps are getting ready to get filled, but the demand is also increasing at the same time. Grid modernization. This is something that we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Because electricity is so reliable, you don't need to update it very often. But now we have a new code in 110.17 that requires you to consider and do maintenance and preventative maintenance. The power companies don't live by that, but you got to ask yourself in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, could they forecast that we were going to be using electricity 100 years from now? Yes. Why were these investments not made? I've seen systems that they don't work on except for emergency stuff for 30 years. I've came from an area that I don't know, they finally had to, I feel like, come kicking and screaming into the modern age. And I don't know if they finally got grants, if they didn't have money, if they got bought out. I ask these questions, and I want to get us thinking on this podcast. I want to get us thinking, why were they not updating that infrastructure all along? Why were they not expanding? Were they expanding and we just didn't see it? Those are the questions that I ask now. We've known, how long have they been reporting the grid can't handle what we're doing? Like 15 years now. In 15 years, do you guys understand what I'm saying? The whole point is I ask the question, why? And some of them are limited by budget. Some of them are publicly traded companies, and they have to do what's best for the shareholder. But we know that the demand is here. It's not going anywhere. Let's fix it. Let's do something about it. And I look forward to some of the ideas that you might come up with that might help them. Let's go ahead and talk about number 7, extreme weather events. This is a huge factor in all of our costs and in some of the reasons why they haven't been able to update their current system, answering part of my question that I just posed. When you have a flood sweep through an area like you did in the South, in Weaverville, North Carolina, in Swannanoa, Swannanoa, this upper Asheville, above Asheville, came down through Irwin, all of that area in Tennessee, they stop all planned projects and they go back to just getting power restored as quickly as possible. New poles, new lines, new transformers. When those kind of things happen, it's a huge setback. So we have to be gracious in that sense to factor in that we have dealt with a lot over the last, I'd say, 5 years. Seems like America was hit very hard over the last 5 years, and it makes you wonder why sometimes too as well, right? But with that being said, this year's been a good hurricane year, depending on where you live at. There's a lot less fires than there was. It seems like that hopefully, this year they'll be able to get back, start doing their thing. And I have a huge heart for all the men and the women who do line work. They have a job that most of us would not do. They're braver than most of us would ever be. They come out, they work tireless, just endless hours, and they work hard to keep our grid going. So I want to give a shout out to all the linemen and women and all the electricians and tradesmen and women across the country. We all work very hard, but I want to get us thinking on this podcast about some of the things that are going on in our world. We can't just sit by anymore and let things happen. We did that for the last 10 years. We just sat by and let it all happen. And look where we are as an industry. Look where we are as a country. We've got to be knowledgeable. We got to be informed, and we got to rise up in the correct way to make positive change. And listen to me, if you want to make a change in this world, I'm convinced that the only way you'll ever influence anybody or make a change is by first serving them. By first showing them that you're there for them, you want to help them, you want to see them grow, you want to help the industry. It's not by giving ideas. I can get the GPT to make me a million ideas. It's not by inserting your opinion or your dominance. It's by first serving them. Then that opens up this amazing door that only gets opened when you serve people for you to actually have an influence in that organization. A lot of people will come into an organization like Trail Life or a ball team. They'll see 2 or 3 things wrong. They'll start spouting off on how everybody should fix it, and they're wondering why it's not done right. Instead, if you'll come in and serve and clean up after the ball game or clean up after the practice, help the stuff get there, stay till it's, whatever. If you'll start serving, you'll find that this door gets open for your opinion to matter. And that only comes through time in the chair, and through service. Bottom line, electricity costs are not rising just for one reason. They're climbing because of a perfect storm of pressures, more demand, higher input cost, aging infrastructure, clean energy investments, and the need for a more resilient grid. The long-term outlook suggests that bills may keep trending upward, though renewable energy growth could eventually stabilize or even reduce the costs once large-scale infrastructure transitions are completed. All right, let's dive into the code of the day. This was a big change in the 2023 terminal block fill. So we're in 314.16, and we are talking about box fill. So how much space is being taken up by the wires themselves, is being taken up by the device. How big is a GFCI, right? Have you ever worked on that one box where it's teeny tiny and you're trying to cram that GFCI in there? Turn the breaker on, it shorts out, tape it all up, ease it back in there. With that being said, how much space should we account for all of these things? Well, a brand new one in the 2023 are terminal block fills. Let me show you a couple examples of terminal blocks. So these are terminal blocks, in my opinion. You'd have to look at what what the bag says they're identified as, but I would call these terminal blocks. But you also got to ask the question, is a Wago a terminal block? I don't know, but let's look at the code. If a terminal block is installed inside of a box, it must be counted as one volume allowance total. This allowance is determined based off of our normal table of 314.16. And it should be B2, right? Or no, it's just B. 314.16, and is based off the largest conductor connected to the block assembly. So here we have some terminal blocks. If I'm using them for splicing inside of a box, then I would require to count that as one of my fill of whatever conductor is largest that's terminated to it. Remember, everything you're doing with this counting of conductors is you're trying to convert it back over to a conductor for your count. Meaning that if I've got two 10-gauge wires that I'm splicing, one coming in, one going out on a terminal block, it's going to count as 110 total for all of my conductor count. Let's imagine I have 3 10s, just the wires. I've got 2 for my GFCI device, and I've got 2 terminal blocks. That means I would end up with 6 total conductors for my conductor count. Then all I have to do is go to my table. I find my conductor fill volume for that 10-gauge conductor, multiply it by 6, and that's how many cubic inches I'm taking up of that box. And like this says, if you had 5 terminal blocks, it only counts as 1. So you could have 5 of these splicing blocks, and they're saying, hey, we're not going to make you count all 5. That would push your box fill in an outrageous place. But we are going to count something, and they count as 1. 1 total based off the largest conductor that is connected to the device. Now let's head over to our tool corner. I'm pretty excited about today. Full disclosure, I've maybe used one of these 5 times total, including this morning. So this will be like a brand new test, and I hope I kind of fumble around with it in a bit so we can see whether or not it's any good. One thing, and I've got several different size wires here that we're going to try. If you didn't see yesterday's episode, this is a wire stripping tool. One of the hardest things in electrical is stripping wire, especially when you're doing lots and lots of connections. I've got me several types of wire here. I'm not familiar with the tool. And I guess the grand question for today is does it work? How well does it work? Do I prefer it over traditional wire strippers? And what do I think about it overall? Well, the first thing, let's go ahead and talk about what I think will be good. The fact that it's got a pretty good action. Now, you do have to use quite a bit of muscle here to get this thing open, but I feel like it's got a pretty good action. I do like the cutting hole right here. So you literally just take the wire in and you cut it. Wherever it hits on that is where it's going to cut at. Boom. So it's got great cutting action. It has no grabbing action. Let me explain what I mean. I feel like that we could add grabbing action to this. If I am trying to make jumpers with this piece of 12 and I want to pull that wire out to get to it, I have no way to do it with this tool no. The other thing I see, unless I'm missing it, there's no way to cut this shorter. So if I've got a roll of 12-2 and I'm wanting to make a bunch of jumpers and I've got to make 50 of them, I need to cut 50 maybe 1-foot pieces, and I've been there, and that's how I do it. I do like a Henry Ford assembly line when it comes to doing large repetitious work. I'll just... With that being said, I see no way to cut the roll. So I'm going to have to whip out my Kleins, which I've got a pair here somewhere. Here they are. I'm going to have to whip out my clients, cut, set this down, then pick up my wire stripper if I'm wanting to pre-strip all the wires before I do my jumpers. So it's just a couple things that I noticed. So let's go ahead and get a piece of 12 gauge wire out. That's probably the most popular wire that I would be stripping. And so if we take a look at it here, hopefully you guys can see that. It does a bunch of different sizes. Looks like the bottom is our solid gauges. So I'm just going to take this, I suppose, and I'm going to lay it in there. And I'm going to lay it right on 12. And I'm going to get it about 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to strip it. That was pretty easy, man. That was pretty easy. Now if I want to clean it up, clean, not bad. That was a pretty easy strip, I'm not going to lie. Let's go ahead and do another one. Let's put it on 12 again. So it looks like wherever, I'm going to try to get this where you guys can see it. It looks like wherever you set it right here is however long it's going to strip. So I want to keep that in mind. However, let's see where the actual measurement's taken from. Okay, so it's where, I'll show you here in a second. So that went pretty smooth as well. I'm going to have wire strippings in my coffee if I don't watch it. So wherever you let the wire come past the teeth, what happened to it? There it goes. Wherever you let the wire come past the teeth is how much of the insulation it's going to take off. Let's see if I can do one backwards so you guys can see the action here. I'm curious to see if you guys use this out in the field. There's 12. Let's see. That's not bad. I'm not going to lie. One thing I do notice is that I've got to do that every time. Let's see if I can get the tool itself to take it off. I'm a real... I mean, I've done, I guess probably millions of connections. I gotta be quick with it. I don't play games. Boom. Yeah, you can use the tool to take it off. So just to show you that, I went ahead, I did the stripping, and then I can use the tool to take the end off, and now I'm ready to go. Now here's the major question, and this might be the deal breaker for me. Can I use this to curl my wire? So I've stripped my 12 back. How am I gonna curl this thing? Does this have a built-in curler? So I might be able to use this hole. Let's try it. No, not going to happen. All right, let's straighten it back out, and let's see if we can curl it with another part of it. If you can't curl with this, that might be a deal breaker for me. I'm curious to see down in the comments below. Let's make sure our live stream is still going. The other day it canceled. Yeah, we're doing good. I'm curious if you guys use these. I'd love to see it down in the comments below if there's a way to curl your wire with this. If you can't curl with this, to me it's a paperweight. Where there's a will, there's a way. I feel like there's a way. And what I mean by that is when you take your wire, and of course I wouldn't use Kleins normally either, but when you take your wire and you're wanting to wrap it around your receptacle or around your switch, you are going to want to be able to curl. I got to be able to strip and curl pretty quickly. Strip and curl pretty quickly. All right, let's try some other wires. I've got 12 gauge. This looks like 12 gauge stranded. So I've got a 12 gauge stranded gauge. And let's see how it does. Ah, man, that's got nice action. I'm not going to lie to you. I'd be lying if I didn't say that did not feel good. Man. No nick around the neck. I'm not going to lie, that thing's pretty beastly. Let's try a piece of 10 gauge. This would be 10 gauge. Stranded. We got 10 stranded. Let's give her a whirl. 10 gauge stranded is pretty hard to strip. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it can be a bear. Man, that was pretty nice. The question is, how many tools do I have to have? It can't cut, it can't pull, it can't curl. But boy, it feels like it can strip pretty nice. I'm not going to lie to you. So we got 10 gauge stranded. Be my 8 gauge solid. Man, that's pretty nice. I like that. I love when I find new tools. I'm an old school kind of dude. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm curious to see if it'll do this data wire. This is one wire I did try earlier, and I could not get it successfully. Now, in defense of the tool, this has been in a humid garage since the house was built. The house is about 18 months old. So it could be baked on there, like 100-degree or higher to garage with the humidity. It literally could just be, that could be part of the reason why it's not stripping, but let's try it. It's just not doing it. So it's just not doing this data wire, this should be what, 20 gauge? What does it say it is? I don't even know if it'd say the gauge on here. It's 23 gauge. So this is outside of the scope of this. Maybe why it's not working. This only goes down to 20. So that could be the reason. I don't have 8 stranded, or I don't have 8 solid, but I do have 8 stranded. I'm curious to see if it'll go ahead and do it. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the 8 slot. Not buying it. Got it off for me. Got it started. And I'd have to pull it off. So it's not going to do 8 stranded, but I do have a pair of strippers. They're these orange pair. I don't remember what brand they are, but man, they are, I think they're Southwire, and they are a dream, and they strip 8 stranded. Maybe I'll do those tomorrow because they strip just about every wire you can think of, and it's a normal pair of strippers. So maybe I'll do those tomorrow and take a look at the comparison. I'm going to be honest with you. Let me go ahead and give you my review. I'm pretty impressed, not going to lie. Several things missing. Nothing to grab with. And I don't, is there any use for this flat part? I'm not sure. Nothing to grab with. Nothing to cut the actual NM cable with. Like, how am I going to cut this? There's no way to curl your wire. So it's got, for me, it's 3 strikes, you're out. Am I going to be switching to this? Absolutely not. If I found myself having to make 1,000 strips in a day, maybe it might buy its way. And one of the reasons that it's out for me is the weight. I have my pouch set up. I've got, I'm rocking and rolling. I've got to be like quick draw McGraw when it comes to my tools. And this is pretty heavy and it's awkward. Look, it stays open like that. And there is no locking mechanism to keep it small. So it's going to be like this in the bag, spread out. I don't know, man. For as great as it cuts, I feel like it has too many drawbacks for me. Curious to see if you guys use it. If you like this segment instead of just looking at tools and you enjoy me actually busting them out and using them, if you could leave that in the comments below. That way I know kind of what direction to take the tool corner. Let's talk about becoming attractive. This is our small business coaching corner. And I want you to become attractive. Now, I don't mean physically attractive. I mean attractive in business. I want you to be the type of business and person in business that people are drawn toward. And a couple ways you do that, obviously, is attitude. You want your team looking sharp. Now, they don't have to look like, I've seen, some almost overdressed electricians, but you want your team to look sharp. Uniforms are good. It doesn't have to be some crazy uniform. It's often best at first to get you a uniform that you can purchase at somewhere like Walmart or somewhere like Target or somewhere like a store that repetitively sells the same style clothes. And then you can have them embroidered, or if you'll go to your local shirt shop, they may sell one that's really generic like this, that you can put your logo on, that's easy to replace, that doesn't cost a fortune without going into super customizable. All it needs to say is your company name, and honestly, you don't even have to have that on there if you don't want. It is great for recognition when you walk up to the door. Also, have your employees make sure that they're having themselves put together when they go to customers' houses. But some of the biggest ways that you can become attractive is people all want the same stuff. If you watch the news, they say everybody's different. We all disagree. Listen, 99% of stuff we all agree on. I just went to LA, had a bunch of different guys as Uber drivers. Every one of them believes something totally different than me, but all of us had the same things in common. And we had a ball on our Uber trips. They love to work. They love to grind. They love to eat. They love to take vacation. And listen to me, we're all the same. We all have the same lot of body functions, right? We all have the same thoughts, and we all have the same desires. Everybody wants to, and this is how you make your business attractive, everybody wants to feel safe. If people don't feel safe around you, especially for one, just being around you in general, if they feel like they need somebody there or they don't feel safe around you for whatever reason, they're not going to want you to work for them. And especially in the industry we're in a very scary business to people. When things spark, it scares people. And people can die from electricity, and it's silent, and it doesn't have a smell. Like people, it's a scary business. So not only do people want to feel safe around you generally, but they want to feel safe around you electrically. And that's one way that you can become attractive, is to make sure that people feel safe. They want to feel safe, and they want to feel like they're not getting ripped off. If you have any sleazy car salesman in you, or you have any practices that you know at the end of the day when you lay down at bed at night that something's not right, listen to me. You got to cut those out of your business. People are not stupid. If you're charging 400 and 500% markup on a part, people can go to Lowe's.com on their phone while they're standing with you. And I'll give you an example. Have you ever been in a store and pulled out your phone and checked the price somewhere else while you're standing in that person's store? Don't think for a second that people don't do it to you. They can have AI do a deep research of the going rate of all electrical services across the entire United States. And in about 15 minutes, deep research will have a research PhD level paper on the prices for any individual item or any individual service. So don't think for a second that people are stupid. So if you're doing any practices that are unattractive to you, if you wouldn't want someone to do it to you, don't do it to them. So people want to feel safe. They want to feel like they're not being ripped off. And most off, people are feeling, and this is the biggest thing I want you to get today, people leave you feeling one way or another. People leave you feeling one way or another, or in the middle. Do you want them to be in love with your service, or do you want them to hope that you never come back and they never talk to you again? Or do you want them somewhere in the middle? Well, I'll keep them around just because I don't have anybody else. I want you to lean toward the people want to be around you. And how you become an attractive person, honestly, is to treat other people like you want to be treated. I watched an 1.5-hour thing on AI with two people who don't believe at all, really in anything. But at the end of this AI summit, and the guy was talking about the doom and gloom and the things that could happen, it's one of the smartest minds in the world on AI and one of the greatest podcast hosts out there. Neither one of them are believers, but at the end of it, the podcast host asked him, well, if the world's going to be this way in 5 years, how ought we to live? And two dudes who don't believe, the smart dude that was there giving the advice said, treat other people like you want to be treated. All of his doom and gloom and how we should act and how we should be prepared, an 1.5 hour long, one of the greatest minds in the world, he literally said, treat other people like you want to be treated. If you want to be an attractive person, treat other people like you want to be treated. Bill them like you want to be billed. Call them back like you want to be called back. Love on them like you want to be loved on. Make them feel safe like you want to feel safe. And make them feel like they're not getting ripped off, like you don't want to get ripped off. And if you do that, you will become attractive. People will beat down your door. They will wait months for you to come do their work. I remember, this is my favorite memory of this. I usually only keep about a month's worth of work. And then I give the rest of it away to specific people, depending on where they're at in their career, because I want to help influence the work in my area. I'd rather help control where the work went to certain people than not. But I was at a season where I couldn't stay a month out. I had to literally stay 2 months out. And after that, I would not even book a job. I'm sorry. Things change, life changed. I might not get done on time and you've already waited 2 months. I was literally, it would be 7 weeks out, and this guy had a week-long job. I was 8 weeks out. I said, sir, please let me hook you up with a buddy. You're going to have to wait 8 weeks for me to do this job. He said, I don't care how long I have to wait. I want you to do the job. I said, okay. Didn't take his money, didn't take a deposit or anything. Literally, he ended up waiting 9 weeks because when I got there, I was a week behind because of just weather and different things. He literally waited that entire time for us to come do his work. That's what I want for you. And it's not because of me. It's because I created an atmosphere that was attractive, that people wanted, that people beat down the door and the phone rang off the hook. And if you look at your business and that's not the case for you, it's not the president's fault. It's not the past president's fault. It's not Congress's fault. It's nobody's fault but your own. If you don't have a phone that rings off the hook, you've not been doing the things that produce it. And all you have to do today is turn and start doing the things that produce it. You can hit me up. I'll give you a free coaching call, 30 minutes for you to get your feet pointed in the right direction and get you doing the things that will make you more attractive. Now let's give a shout out to
when it comes to electrical
video.
work,
You guys
efficiency
listen,
and organization are key, but managing wire on the job site.
I won't do it tomorrow. Anyways, or won't do it Monday. How many years have you lived like this where your rolls of wire are being broken and beaten all over? You've lost them. They are all over. Listen to me. It's hard to pull. It's hard to rack. You're constantly moving stuff around. Stop it. Set yourself up right. Set yourself up with the 10 gauge version. Set yourself up with a 14. Set yourself up with a 12. You've got 3 rolls of wire that have every single thing inside of it that you need to get all that you need done, and it's only taking up a very small amount of space, and they're not getting busted. And if you wanted to, you could store things down in between them to even max out that space. Head over to stackmax.com. Use the coupon code COACH. Save 10%. Quit playing around. Put one of these on your truck today. Make sure you save 10% with the coupon code COACH. Now let's get to know me very quickly. What is a food that always puts me in a good mood? Pizza. I love pizza. I ate pizza for dinner last night. I could eat pizza for breakfast this morning. I could eat pizza for lunch today. Now I'd want to cook it up in different ways. Or steak, either one always puts me in a good mood. If I could eat dinner with anyone who's alive, who would it be? That's an interesting question. I could eat dinner, set down across the table with anyone who's alive, who would it be? I'm going to be honest with you. It would probably be Warren Buffett. Not because he's a billionaire, but because he's a billionaire that eats breakfast at McDonald's every morning. And I would tell him my scenario, and I would just want to glean any advice that he had for my little scenario. Not that I want to be a billionaire, but if you've ever seen Warren Buffett, he's one of the most laid-back, down-to-earth dudes. He still lives in the same house he bought in like the 50s. It's like my house is bigger than his. All right? And he still goes to McDonald's every day for breakfast. That's just the kind of dude that I would want to meet and eat dinner with, just to glean from him with my situation, you know, what I should do and what he would do, just to kind of glean that. What's my favorite cut of steak? Used to be a New York, but the older I get, the more I like the fat, so it's actually turned into a ribeye. Obviously, we want prime grade cuts if we can get them, and Wagyu when possible, right? What's a tradition that your family have at Christmas that I've kept as an adult? Well, we open up all of our presents on Christmas Eve. When I was a kid, there was my mom did Santa and stuff, so they did their presents on Christmas Eve, and they did Santa's presents on Christmas Day, and they would always save the best presents and give the credit to Santa for some reason. But anyways, the best presents would get saved for the next morning. They would give me the clothes and the little bit of stuff they got me, usually very little. Some years better than others, but and then the next day, whatever Santa was going to bring would be. So one of the traditions that I've kept is my kids open up all of their presents on Christmas, and they know who really gives them. If I could describe my career in 2 words, what would it be? Let's go. I guess it would be let's go. Let's go ahead and go get it. Let's go ahead and make a difference. Let's go ahead and try. Let's throw it against the wall to see if it sticks. I would say that the 2-word summary for my career would be let's go. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the question of the day. Hey everyone, welcome back. I am the Electrical Code Coach, and this is the electrical question of the day. What is the minimum circuit requirement for kitchens? And what we're talking about in a kitchen, what is the minimum number of required circuits? And we're going to find this answer in 210.11c1. It says, in addition to the other circuits that are required here in the code, you must have a minimum of 2 20-amp small appliance branch circuits for all of the locations that are listed in 210.52b. So in order to find out these locations, we got to flip over a couple pages. So we flip over a couple pages, and these are all the areas that those 2 circuits are allowed to cover. Like I said, you can do more than this. I've said in previous videos, this is the minimum required. You are allowed to do more. You can do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kitchen circuits, but let's talk about the minimum and then you can add from there. So when we get over to 210.52b1, we're going to find out that the receptacles that the receptacle outlets that are allowed to be served by the branch circuits that are listed in 210.11c1 are the kitchen, pantry, breakfast room, dining room, or similar area. It's also allowed to do the countertop outlets as well as refrigeration equipment. So off of the one circuit, you could do the
part of the countertops. You could do the dining room, and you could also do the refrigerator, all off the same circuit. Then off the second kitchen circuit, you could do the other part of the countertops, the island, and a breakfast nook, and just have those two circuits regardless of how big the house is. Now, if you have multiple kitchens and it's by definition a kitchen, you're required to have two of those circuits for each kitchen. So you've got to keep that in mind. So with that being said, you are allowed to run the refrigerator and the countertops off the same circuit. But do most of us? And the answer is no. And I want to give one caveat here. Yes, the code allows you to run the countertops and the refrigerator off the same circuit, but there are newer, larger pieces of refrigeration equipment, refrigerators, that are requiring in their listing instructions a 20 amp branch circuit dedicated. So you have to watch out, because those listing and labeling instructions that come with the refrigerator supersede what the code book says. So the code book might say you can run the countertop and the refrigerator, but if inside that manual, inside the paperwork, it requires a dedicated 20 amp circuit, guess who wins? It's the refrigerator. So you would have to follow that, and that would be a 110.3b issue if you want to go check out that code, 110.3b. I hope you guys are having a great week, and if there's anything I can do to help you in life or business, you can always email me at electricalcodecoach@gmail.com. Let's get to it.
All right. So that was our electrical question of the day. That's one of the older ones that I brought back for us to watch. And I hope that you see now the improvement in the newer videos where I show more code, I get more involved, and we dive in a little bit deeper. But hopefully that added a little bit of value to you today, and you can look forward to the little videos each day becoming more and more as we get more and more time. Now I want to dive in today's Mindset University, because it doesn't matter how well of a player you are. If you have the wrong mindset, the wrong attitude, you will be on the bench of life. It's just the way it works. And the last little bit, we've been talking about reflecting on your past wins, getting yourself together, getting ready. But now, my friends, it's go time. I guess I have to ask a question. What are you waiting for? One thing in America management is not the managing of things or movement of things. It's the development of people. And what we find, I know lots of managers, is that the problem is not the resources that managers have. It's not the intent that managers have. It's not the greed of the manager. It's that no one wants to develop themselves. If you go back and look at the days of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even 2000s, business people were hungry, not only to go to the next level, but to improve themselves. They would go to seminars, they would go to talks, they wanted to level up. But what we find now is, because the base level of comfort in our country is so comfortable, that people are literally just willing to just stop at 33 years old and stop developing themselves altogether. So my question for you today, and my call for you, is to consider, my friend, it's go time. What are you doing with your life? Where are you going? It's not being discontent. It's just knowing that if you don't continue adding value to yourself, you're either going forward or you're going backward. So where are you going? It's go time. I want you to go forward. You might be able to hold steady for a short bit, but you are literally either going backward or you're going forward. So I want you today to decide to go. Where are you been going? What have you been waiting to do? It's time to jump off the porch. It's time to get started on your license. It's time to get started on that next leg of your career. It's time to start learning AI. It's time to start whatever that looks like for you. It's time to go. It's go time. The time is here. It's time for indecision, time for waiting, time for stalling is over. If you don't go, there's large job displacement coming. This is for every industry. I want you to listen to me. There is large job displacement coming, which is going to free up some of America's greatest talent who are already skilled, already have degrees, or have already worked their way up. They already know how to punch the clock. They already know how to work on a team, and they are going to be coming after everyone's job, including mine. All right? At first, we're going to welcome them like we've talked about for the simple fact that we have a labor shortage, but they are coming for everyone's job. If you dog the clock, if you don't work hard, if you think you're clocking in and going out and playing and nobody knows about it, your boss knows about it. They just needed a warm body for now, but now they can create an AI that has a PhD level in just about everything that they can sit down and program to do whatever they want. So listen to me. If you've been waiting to go to that next level, put that next feather in your hat, if you've been waiting to work on something, stop waiting. It's at your door. And if you don't do it now, somebody's coming for your spot. I just want to have a sober talk with you this morning. Somebody's coming for your spot if you don't get going now. I'm telling you, you'll hear these words ring in 3, 6, 9 months when somebody is applying for, or your company's hiring, and it's a very eerily similar position to what you're doing, and you've not made that move to get your license, get your certification, be in the program. If your bosses or your company see the progress, that you're signed up for the course, you're signed up for the class, you're doing the stuff, then that is the sign of momentum. But those who are stagnant or are going backward, you will be replaced, or dogging the clock, cheating the thing, thinking you're beating the man and everybody's stupid. Listen to me. They know everything you're doing everywhere you go. They're not stupid. They've just held on to you because they've got no other option, but they're getting ready to have an infinite number of options of people who are going to be hungry, who just literally lost their job like the shoemaker, and they are hungry and they're willing to work for whatever money and work whatever hours, just because if not, they lose the Cadillac, they lose the vacation, they lose their livelihood. So you better get real hungry real quick, and I'm telling you right now, it's go time. So what does that look like for you? I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it in your mind, and I want you to imagine what it is that you know you should have been going on, and I don't want you to wait, because I'm telling you it's about to get competitive. If you're not a competitive person, that's fine, but you better get real competitive with yourself, and you better start pushing hard, because it's time, and it's go time right now. I am the Electrical Code Coach, and my bargain is that these videos will add value to you, and you will in turn add value to others. This is the Alpha Phase Podcast, but there is one who is the alpha of alphas, and he's the one that gives me the drive, the determination, the grit, the grind, the strength, the ability, and to push when I don't feel like it. And his name's Jesus, and he'll do the same for you. If you're looking for infinite intelligence, if you're looking for super intelligence, if you're looking for an infinite being, you don't have to look any farther. We don't have to create him in a lab. I promise you he already exists. I am the Electrical Code Coach. Let's get